So in this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to make Almond Jaconde. We are going to use this for opera. Opera is like the gold dessert for me. It's like powered with coffee, and there's also buttercream and ganache, and while setting up the opera, it's going to be very exciting. And so this sponge is all loaded with almonds. It's an Almond Jaconde that we'll be doing. We also want the sponge to be like kind of very thin. We're just going to bake them in sheet. So I have a baking tray. I'm going to show you how we are going to pour them and bake. We're not going to bake like cake, and the sheet also has to be thin, but also it should have the good absorbing capacity, because you're going to load that sponge with coffee syrup, because it's like a loaded coffee dessert. So the ingredients I have here: the icing sugar for the dry, all-purpose flour, and salt, together with whole load of almond meal. So all this four will form the dry, and then I have whole eggs, and then I also have egg whites separately, and we are going to beat the whole eggs first, and then add all the dry together and then beat them together. Then finally we'll add the whites. We are going to whip it nicely until it is frothy. We're not going to add any sugar to that. So just the frothy whites, and then I have melted butter finally. So with the eggs and all the dry that's beaten up nicely well, we are going to fold in the whites, the frothy egg whites, and then the melted butter, a little at a time, and then fold. And obviously for this, it's a technically strong recipe, so we have to be sure and careful that you're not going to overfold the final batter, a thick batter, that we'll just pour it into the baking tray to bake. Now if the batter becomes thin, then obviously your sponge is not going to raise, and we are going to have like a crispy cookie kind of a texture, and that's not going to make a good opera. Okay, so I have two bowls, so the whites I'm going to beat at the end. Now into the stand mixer, I'm going to fit the paddle attachment, and then start with beating the whole eggs. Now whole eggs I'm going to beat until they become quite thick, all of them in. And then beat it on medium high speed until it just kind of breaks and then becomes thick as well. So the eggs are just beaten up. You can see how it looks, just about frothy. Okay, it's still going to be runny. Okay, now at this stage I want to add the flour. I'm going to have the flour mixture sifted together, and then add the almond meal. Have all the three together. This add all-purpose flour and the icing sugar. To that I'm adding the salt as well. To this I'm going to add the almond meal. Then use a wire whisk to combine the almond meal. I'm just going to get the beater running and then add 1 tablespoon or 2 tablespoons at a time. Just slowly adding and then getting it incorporated. You don't have to beat for long after it's added. Then you have a batter in which the flour, the icing sugar and the almond meal is all incorporated well. You don't have to beat long. Say suppose you're using a handheld beater, you could just add in all the dry together, fold it once and then run the hand beater to just have everything incorporated. So this part is done. I'm just going to set this aside and then move on to beating the whites. Now if you have just a single beater, then start with beating the whites and then using the same beater on a different bowl. You can just start beating the whole eggs at this stage. So I'm just going to put this aside and get another bowl. I'm going to fit the balloon whisk. Into that, I'm going to add the whites and keep beating. It's going to froth up because you're not going to add sugar. You let it beat some more time until it becomes foamy, and then is when you're going to stop using it. So egg whites, beating them up even without sugar is going to get foamy and look like meringue, but then it is quite unstable because it could just turn watery. You can't be beating this and then leaving out for quite some time. It's just going to gather up some liquid at the bottom. It's going to separate itself. The liquid part will just collect itself down at the base, and that will be like a broken meringue. You can't be using it. Okay, so let me just use a spatula to show you how the texture looks. It's just egg whites. You can see how thick it is. Okay, so I'm just going to use this cloudy whites into the batter. So this is the one that has eggs and all the flour, right, and there is melted butter. Now because melted butter is there, this jaconde usually needs that little bit of fat in it, so butter has to go in. But then by adding the butter at the end and trying to incorporate it, we generally kind of tend to lose the texture of the entire jaconde. So I'm just going to fold the batter in, the whites into the batter, and then finally I'm going to take a part of the batter and then add it into the melted butter, and then keep the butter not as thin as this. So incorporating it into the batter will make it easier, so the batter will not kind of deflate. I'll just show you how to do that. So right now I'm just going to add the whites into the batter. You just break down the whites, don't overfold. And even when you're seeing some streaks of the whites, just go on and add the next portion. I'm just going to add all of it, so I don't have to fold the third time. It's going to go all the way to the bottom and then cut it. Now keeping the batter thick is very important, and breaking the whites, going all the way to the bottom and cutting it. Okay, so at this stage, because I also have the butter to be incorporated, I'm just going to transfer the butter into another reasonably bigger bowl. So that's melted butter. And then going to take in some of the batter into the butter. And just mix this up. Now incorporate the butter into this portion of the batter. Now, because if you're going to add the butter as it is, the melted butter, that will just tend to deflate this batter. So I'm kind of tempering so it doesn't lose the consistency but also get incorporated. Okay. So the butter is all in this, and yet this is quite thick, and now I'm just going to add this butter incorporated batter. Just going to place them all around, not going to drop it in one place. So then we need to get everything incorporated together again without over mixing, right? And now this I'm going to again go to the bottom. Don't over mix, just keep the batter thick. So when you see the color is all homogeneous, just going to stop. Okay. So I'm just going to pick up the tray, a baking tray that's about around 30 centimeters by 40 centimeters. But then it also depends on what is the thickness of the jaconde I'm going to use and in what size I'm going to set as well. So I'm just going to spread this out. Also in this baking tray I have lined it up with a silpat, a silicone mat. This is a good quality one, and this is going to release the jaconde even after it is baked. Now if you don't have a silpat like this, then you could line your baking tray with parchment paper and then brush it with butter. So releasing from the butter paper is going to be easy. Okay, so I'm just going to transfer the batter. So I'm just going to retain a bit to just check how thick I'm just going to have this spread. I'll be needing 4 layers, right? It looks good. I'm going to add the rest. So we'll be baking one whole sheet and cut them into 4. So that's not going to spread much on baking. You just need to spread it so the shape that you want it to be baked and the size is what you spread on the sheet. Now it's going to rise up definitely, but not move out and then spread the shape in which it is getting baked. Let me just grab a offset spatula, so I'll be just able to have a flat top. I'm just going to level this up. So I'll be setting the opera in square rings. I'm just going to have the size that is right enough for me to use a square ring, and then cut this into 4 square sheets. You just want it leveled. This looks good. I'm just going to do tapping just about once to get rid of any bigger air bubbles, and this I'm going to bake it at 180 degrees Celsius somewhere between 10 to 12 minutes, and then the top is going to be kind of golden brown and the edges are going to turn brown as well, and obviously a toothpick inserted into the center anywhere should come out clean. Obviously it is a very thin sponge, but you'll know it is baked when you have the porous top and a bit of golden brown on the top. Just wait until it is 12, and if you think it is kind of sticky to the touch, now if you're going to touch, it shouldn't be sticking to your fingers, it should kind of be springy back, and in 12 minutes if it is not, then move on till 15. Anything more than 15 will make the jaconde crispy. So I'll just bake this and then get back to show you how this got baked. The almond jaconde has come out of the oven. It's quite hot, you can see it's not sticking to the hand. Okay, and the top you can see is starting to become golden brown. I didn't want to over bake it. The edges turning brown, the thin areas, so you can see that this comes out of the silk pad quite easily, but then I just want it to cool down a bit more. So I'm just going to check the toothpick. It's coming out clean, and also because the height isn't much, we just can't be poking it straight in, but just at an angle, so you have some depth to check if the toothpick is coming out clean and there is no wet batter in. So I'm just going to allow it to cool down a bit. Like I said, flip this upside down and peel the silicone mat, and then we'll have the jaconde ready. I'll get back to show you. You could pre-bake this to freeze and keep, but I suggest to also leave it in room temperature because it is not going to take too long to bake, and we can just have the rings here to set up the opera. I'll get back in that lesson, so we could start assembling the opera cake. So I'm just going to flip this and show how do you actually store the jaconde. I'm just going to have another tray and then place it on top, and then just flip this. Then have the gently peel the silk pad. Now the other side could get sticky, so what I'm going to do, I just want the right side on top, the one that was actually facing up. So this is another tray in which I have cling wrapped it, because you don't want this sticking to the tray. So when you're going to cut, you don't want to lose out on the jaconde. I'm just going to put this back, flip it again. Okay. So then you have this transferred onto a tray which is cling wrapped, and then you have the right side facing the top, and this is not going to stick to the base as well. Now you could just leave it out, say maybe for half an hour if we have it to assemble it, or cling wrap this entire thing with this sheet, and then you could store it into the freezer for how many hours before which you are going to get ready with the components to assemble the opera cake.